Hello everyone, this is Ponder on Weather. In this update, we've got tropical downpours bringing some intense rainfall at times with flash flooding and record heat will build out west as we'll take a look at the tropics and walk you through the next 7 to 10 days. Welcome back everyone. This is your morning update. I appreciate all my followers out there and the new followers. So if you are new to the channel and you do like detailed weather breakdowns, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it this morning on the satellite picture. And I like to expand and during hurricane season to really kind of give you an overall depiction of what's happening across the board. So there's a little new flare up of activity right here about 40 north. That's pretty impressive on the satellite picture. That could be another named system in the next couple of days. Well, we have yet another system out here towards the Lesser Antilles that is going to be traversing across in the coming days. But we've got this flare up of activity. We talked about this last week about this little tropical wave. We talked about what is going to be a name system, but it's going to bring some very intense heavy rainfall to the island of Jamaica, and that's what's happening this morning. So flash flooding is a huge concern and landslides for that island, and that will swing across into portions of the Cayman Islands. But overall, the United States is, it's in a zonal flow pattern, which basically severe clear. We got really big ridging across the northern states, and then it's all about the heavy rain that's going to be really setting up over a good chunk of Texas, not just for the next couple of days, but really for the next 7 to 10 days. A lot of rain is heading to the state of Texas on the way over the next 7 to 10 days. So let's kind of break this thing down for you, because we're really going to be talking about some intense record heat unfolding with widespread red flag warnings and heat advisories, excessive heat watches, excessive heat warnings. And I think this is just the beginning out west, because a massive ridge will start to build and a lot of daily record high temperatures will be broken all throughout the week. And we're talking some dangerous stuff. Even Death Valley could be looking at 126 degrees coming up in a couple of days. Numerous spots in California, some spots could touch 120 degrees. Yeah, this heat is no question really going to be dangerous. So be on high alert and stay, stay in the shade as much as possible and stay hydrated, because that heat is dangerous stuff out there. But it's all going to be about the flood warnings and flood watches out here in Texas, where we're just going to be inundated with system after system. So today, we've got a little system out here, and it's going to be a little mini vorticity swirl. So it's completely opposite of what we've seen all summer long, as the tides have changed, where much of the country is dry, and then Texas is being inundated with all the heavy flooding rain. So, and it starts today because we've got a pretty good vorticity swirl. These are tropical showers. I mean, we're talking 2-3 inch per hour tropical type downpours. It's not severe weather type stuff. This is just very intense, heavy rainfall, and it's not widespread. It's usually about 60%. It just pops up during what they call diurnal heating thunderstorms, and then it really starts to dump in a extreme amount of rain and just more or less kind of rains itself out, because the steering flow aloft is very slow moving in nature. While we do have an upper level low that brought a lot of the severe weather across this portion of the country, is now well to the north up here in Canada, and it's going to bring some unsettled weather in portions of Maine today, while we have that cold front that's draped across basically North Texas, right along the boundary here of the deep south. So let's zoom into Texas, because today we do have some huge concerns for excessive flash flooding. First and foremost, down here in the Big Bend area, we have a moderate risk for excessive rainfall. They're talking 2 to 3 inch per hour rainfall potential. This is an area that doesn't really get that much rainfall on a yearly basis. So this is going to be coming too fast, too soon, and flash flooding is a huge concern. But even a slight risk for excessive rainfall in portions of Abilene, getting into Midland, where a marginal risk just expands over to portions of Waco down to Austin, and almost gets into Dallas, but they get a kind of a break today in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But by tomorrow, that vorticity just comes back and pushes back over Texas. So they did actually upgrade it to a slight risk that includes all of the North Texas, all of Waco, down to Austin area for tomorrow, with another concern of just very heavy rainfall. Dumping some intense rainfall rates at times, 2 to 3 inches per hour, is not out of the question. So if we kind of overall view over the next 48 hours, this is 2 days worth of rainfall, guys. So you can see what I'm talking about with this zonal flow up here to the north, just pretty much next to nothing. I mean, there's not much rainfall to speak of anywhere in the United States. It's all down south over Texas, where they just get inundated just over the next 2 days. So some spots could actually pick up some isolated spots up to a foot of rain, and some spots yesterday picked up 3, 4, 5 inches in some of these isolated areas just yesterday. And we're going to be adding to these totals today. So Austin, San Antonio, back into Dallas for tomorrow. All those areas will be under a threat for seeing these tropical downpours. And then you get this little kind of sea breeze and diurnal heating type thunderstorms down here in Florida too. But for the most part, all the rain is basically along this frontal boundary and right along this little vorticity that's spinning up in the upper levels, where it's just pulling in all that deep tropical moisture. So if we head out and kind of expand the view to give you a big picture as we go into your Friday time frame, again, it's all about the heat out west, and there's plenty of record heat going to be unfolding for much of the week. We get this zonal flow. Zonal flow basically means drier typically, and it brings hotter typically as you get a warm west wind. All the cooler air is well to the north. Up in Alaska, you see 50s for high temperatures, and up here into Canada, where they are experiencing some 50s high temperatures, but that's well north. All the unsettled weather with the cooler conditions under the cloud cover and the heavier rain are going to be hard pressed to even top 80 degrees down here for a high temperature under all that rain and cloud cover for most of the day. But yeah, as we go into Friday, it really doesn't stop there. So not only do we have these little vorticities coming across Texas again, we have yet probably another named system out here in the Pacific that's going to be lifting northward to the Baja of California, back to Cabo San Lucas. That's going to swing north, and it's going to be spreading, again, more moisture back into Texas, and that will feed into portions of Arkansas, Louisiana, and parts here to the extreme southeast. While, again, the zonal flows well to the north. Any unsettled weather is going to be up into Canada, where they do have a little bit of more of a instability aloft, where they do have a little bit of colder air sneaking down in that area. So we do have some storms creeping up into portions of Canada, but for the most part, it's a zonal flow for Friday, and that just continues into Saturdays. We got severe clear across the northern tier of the U.S., and then again, we'll be watching that first wave that comes across in the Pacific will be fizzling itself out by Saturday. But that just brings yet another system waiting in its wings that'll probably get yet another named system by the time we get into this weekend. And again, more heavy rain going to be dumping over central Texas and South Texas, got back into Arkansas, getting into Louisiana as we start your weekend. And then going into, kind of expand the view, you can definitely see what's happening here. Again, on the North American view, we've got all about high pressure, right? It's high pressure locked over the western U.S. for a good chunk of the country. Any dips in the jet stream is well north, just south of Alaska, south of the Bering Strait, and out in the open waters. Again, any dips in the jet stream are well north up into Canada with some cooler air for them. But for the most part, a good chunk of the U.S. is above average temperatures. And the only reason why you're going to be below average down here in Texas is because of all the rain and the cloud cover that you're going to be dealing with all weekend long. But that instability will spread across the southeast, along which is kind of a mini cold front. So as you take a look at your setup for your Saturday time frame going into Sunday, that cold front drapes across the south, and then again, the heaviest rains will be draped across central Texas, South Texas, getting into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, and just much lighter amounts with that new trough system coming down into the Ohio Valley area, bringing a little bit more unsettled weather for them. But for the most part, it's all severe clear across the west under that ridge of high pressure. And the same deal for Monday, the 5th, going into your Labor Day on Monday. Yeah, all the heavier rain will be really draped across this boundary here into central Texas and to South Texas again with this little cool front going to be stalled over this area now. Again, just dumping some more heavy rain in those areas along that boundary. So if we expand the view, you would think it's going to end, but it really doesn't, because we have that another system. By the middle of next week, we could have a formidable tropical storm, if not a hurricane, by that point, coming again up here into the eastern Pacific, going to be impacting portions of Cabo San Lucas. So if you got plans to head to Cabo San Lucas, I would definitely be on high alert for these two systems going to be in and around that area, and especially by the middle of next week with this one. This one looks pretty intense, so definitely on the stronger side, and actually could be a stronger hurricane by then. And all it's going to do, again, it's going to be raining itself out. It'll bring in a lot of wind to the Baja of California, but then going to again be spreading its tropical moisture back into Texas, and this is again by the middle of next week. So this is a compounding effect, and you can see the zonal flow that I'm talking about, right? There's not much dip in the jet stream whatsoever. All the activity, all the unsettled weather is basically well south in a good chunk of Texas, well, where they spent for 2 months just basically couldn't buy a drop of rain in the entire state almost, with that extreme and severe drought. And now it's like, well, when's it going to end? When's this rain going to stop? Because there's a lot of rain coming for the next 7 to 10 days. It'll take a major dent in the drought that's happening down in that region. So, but now as we go through, the middle of next week, going to the end of next week, right? So by the end of next week, I think we finally see a little bit of a dip in the jet stream by then. So this won't be until September the 9th timeframe. But we do see a little bit of a dip, have some instability coming back into the U.S., back into Montana, back into the Dakotas. We could be looking at some more severe weather starting to unfold by then. Of course, we'll be fine-tuning this as we get closer, but it's all about the zonal flow between now and then. So over the next 10 days, there's your ridge of high pressure with all the record heat. It's going to be unfolding across the west this week and really start to probably max out sometime on Sunday timeframe with a good, 105 degrees in Los Angeles, no question. Just numerous records going to be unfolding across California, Nevada, back into Washington and Oregon, Idaho, Montana, even Utah could be breaking some records here. And it's just all about the heat well to the north with that zonal flow, and you have all the unsettled weather and the cooler conditions and the most well below anomalies down here into Texas and far as the deep south, just because of all the cloud cover and all the heavier rain they're going to be impacting those areas over the next 10 days. And so this is the concern with the combination of all those little vorticities and the tropical downpours and those two systems in the eastern Pacific. If you combine all that, it'll be dumping a lot of heavy rain, and some of these areas could be seeing double-digit rainfall back into San Antonio, back into Austin, back into Houston. So by the time we get into September the 10th timeframe, so for the next 10 days, we could definitely be looking at some pretty healthy totals in Texas, and flooding is going to be a huge concern going forward. And of course, that moisture will spread into portions of Arkansas and to Louisiana, but the main unsettled weather is going to be draped across to the south, and you have all the nicer weather and the much calmer weather as well to the north, with that zonal flow pattern taking shape for a good chunk of next week. So let's take a look at the tropics, right? Because the tropics have been like birds chirping. It's been quiet, right? Day 59 in a row. That's the second all-time longest gap without a storm. Tomorrow will be 60. 61 days is the longest all time. So it's going to be close, right? There's 3 systems. One has an 80% chance. This one has a 70% chance. This one's got a 50% chance. So there's a good chance that these systems get named. In fact, actually, this one just kind of spun up out of nowhere pretty quickly, and it looks pretty impressive on satellite. I wouldn't be surprised if this one actually gets named first. Even if it does, it's going to be racing out to sea. So we'll take a look at the tropics afterwards. But hey, after, again, going into next week, as this comes across, it's a pretty good idea this one's going to be developing. And if it does develop, it'll take the name Danielle, probably a tropical storm. It actually could even be a hurricane, but it's well 40 north and it's going to be racing out to sea. It's going to be no threat to land whatsoever. And even this one that has the 80% chance of developing could also become a storm. It also could become a pretty strong hurricane in itself. But all indications are that one's going to be lifting well out to sea as well. So these two systems, regardless if they get named or not, should have no impact to land whatsoever. So, but beyond that, everybody's been asking me, hey, when are we going to take a break? When are we going to get a break in the heat out west? And I'll give you a little sneak peek because I am going to be doing a fall forecast for tomorrow. So right now, this is a little bit of a sneak peek. So we have some pretty intense heat for the first 10 days of September. But as we go through the middle of the month and that third week of September, I do see a change in the overall pattern where we do get a break coming back for out west. And we could be looking at some cooler conditions filtering back in the picture by then. And that won't be until the third week of September. But you'll have to stay tuned for the rest of the forecast because I'll be releasing the fall forecast on tomorrow's video. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Catch the latest update where I protect you before and after storm.